Okay, Rabbi Altman, we're speaking of Parashas Beshalach. This is packed, absolutely packed. A few very, very important lessons in Parashas Beshalach. Let's see what we can do in a short amount of time. Right away, first of all, it says Klal Yisrael left. When Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, they left Chamushim. The word Chamushim means fifth. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 50, 1 out of 500. There's a very, very, very basic lesson here. If 2 million people made it out of Mitzrayim, and 2 million is 1/5, right? That means that there were 10 million people total. 8 million died in Makas Choshech, excuse me. Yeah.
I don't even know which Makkah.
Oh, so Klal Yisrael, so we know this from Rashi. Rashi brings a Chazal that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to. There were a bunch of Jews that did not want to leave Mitzrayim, and Hashem said, "I don't want the Mitzrayim to say, oh, just like we're getting hit, they're getting hit too." So Hashem, it's a well-known idea. So Hashem caused them to die in Makas Choshech when no one else saw. This way, the Mitzrayim wouldn't see, and the whole thing was taken care of during that period of time. Now, what's interesting is the following. The future Geula, which is going to come soon, Be'ezras Hashem, it's going to be, Amen, Be'ezras Hashem is going to be soon, right? That Geula is also going to be, Chas v'Shalom, can be similar proportions. Only 1/5 makes it out. We want to make sure we're part of the 5th. It doesn't have to be intense. So we want to make sure that we're part of that 1/5 that gets out. This is a very important idea. So now, this should not be the only factor in our decisions, but we should think to ourselves, every day, am I making myself a person that's making myself more likely to come out of Mitzrayim or more likely to stay in Mitzrayim?
Just the decision to not want to leave Mitzrayim was enough then, no?
No. Well, part of it was that if a person didn't want to leave, then Hashem didn't take them out. That's for sure true. So you have to want Geula. Now, it's easy to talk about I want Geula, but that means you're going to leave your house. That means you're going to leave your car. You're going to leave your job. You're going to leave all kinds of things that are very important things to have. Those things you're not going to have anymore because you're going to to Eretz Yisrael. You have to be willing to let go. Yeah, there's a great phrase. We talk about this. Mi aleh b'har Hashem. Who's going to go up the har of Hashem, the mountain of Hashem? Umi yakum b'mkayim kavshoi. Who's going to stand in His holy place? Neki chapayim, a person who's empty-handed. Naki means empty, among other things. Clean hand doesn't just mean you haven't done the wrong thing, you haven't stolen. It also means your hands are free. You're willing to let go of the past. You're willing to let go of a bunch of things. We talked about this a bunch of times that the wife of Lot was not willing to let go of Sodom. She kept looking back. She looked back. So looking back was a symbol of, I can't let go. I need that. So Hashem said, I can take you out of Mitzrayim. I can't take Mitzrayim out of you. You have to do that. Same thing with us. Right? So that's one stark piece of Mussar, which is an important idea to keep in mind. But there's another idea here also, which is amazing. At the time of leaving Mitzrayim, Klal Yisrael, according to Hashem's command, went to every Mitzri and said, give me clothing, give me money, give me jewelry, right? Because Hashem said, go to the neighbors and ask them for stuff, right? So that's what they did. At the same exact time this was happening, Rashi brings Chazal that says, a pasuk in Mishlei that describes Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu went to get the bones of Yosef because Yosef made his brothers swear that he's going to take him out. Right, guys? Yeah?
Yeah.
So he made, not only swear, you're not going to be alive when that happens, but make sure you make your kids swear and they swear their kids that when we leave, you take my bones out. By the way, all your bones also.
Same thing? Their bones also?
The brothers of the bones of the brothers as well, all the Shvatim. Now, so Moshe Rabbeinu, when everyone else is going to get money, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to get the bones of Yosef and the other brothers also. Now,
How did he know to do that?
So there was a command to get the money, and there was also a command. There was an oath that everyone in Klal Yisrael took.
It was a mitzvah.
To do it. It was a mitzvah. So now
How did everybody know?
Everybody knew because everyone knew the whole story. They knew the history. There was a recent history of their whole family. Everybody knew it. They knew there was going to be we're slaves. There was a promise. They knew about the bris bein habesarim. They knew about everything. Now
They knew all the Jewish history up until that point?
of course, because it wasn't that. First of all, it wasn't that long, and they understood that. Of course, Baruch Hu came to Avram Avinu and made a bris with him and a covenant. What?
How many years in between?
It was a total of 430 years from when the promise was made to Avram Avinu to when the Jewish people left Egypt. Now, this is very interesting. What you see here is the following. Okay, the pasuk says, "Chacham leiv yikach mitzvos." Chacham leiv yikach mitzvos. Chazal say that everyone else is going to get money, and Moshe Rabbeinu Chacham leiv is a wise man going to acquire mitzvahs. Everyone's going to get money, and Moshe is going to get mitzvahs. Now, this is interesting. Why were the Jewish people going to the Mitzrayim and getting money from them? Who told them to do that? Hashem. So they're doing the mitzvah that Hashem told them to go get money. And why did Moshe Rabbeinu go get the bones of Yosef? Because they all took oaths, they took shvuas that they're going to get Yosef's bones. So he was also doing the mitzvah. So why in the world did Chazal say that Moshe Rabbeinu is called the person who takes mitzvahs and the Jewish people weren't? He's doing a mitzvah of getting the bones, and they're doing a mitzvah of getting the money. Here's the question.
He did both. Because it's easier to get money than it is to get some bones.
Question, answer number one, says Raviv, also awesome, right? He says, what's the answer? Because it's easier to get money. Which is an easier mitzvah to do? Get up and say Kriya Shema at the right time, not speak Lashon Hara, or eat Yomi food on Shabbat. There's no question about it. Eat Yomi food on Shabbat. Have a rest on Shabbos. Fantastic, right? No question about it. It's so obvious that it's easier to do the mitzvah. It's easier to do the mitzvah of eating on Shabbos than it is to do the mitzvah of getting up a Kriya Shema, not speaking Lashon Hara, right? Not getting angry, you want to get angry. Who knows what? Easier to eat Yomi food on Shabbos than it is to learn Gemara Rashi Taisus, to show up to a Daf Yomi Shir, to be nice to people. It's easier. So why in the world? But that doesn't answer the question. The pasuk says, "Chacham lev yikach mitzvahs." A wise person, a wise-hearted man, a wise-hearted person takes mitzvahs. So one mitzvah was easier and one mitzvah is harder. That is definitely a big difference. But why does that make Moshe a chacham lev yikach mitzvahs? Why is the person that takes the mitzvahs? The Klal Yisrael is also taking mitzvahs. They're doing an easier one. Hear the question? This is a very important yesod now. The answer is the following. The answer is because the pasuk says yikach mitzvahs, takes. It doesn't mean, what's it mean take a mitzvah? Take a mitzvah. One language of the word kicha means to acquire. Acquire, good for you. Kicha, and kedushin. How do you know that you have to acquire kinyan isha? Kinyan isha. You learn from Abraham Avinu. That's right. Kicha, the same idea. Kicha means an acquisition. How do you acquire mitzvahs? Not just by doing mitzvahs. Doing mitzvahs doesn't make you make a kinyan on a mitzvah. A kinyan acquisition, it's mine, I own it, is when it's hard. It's hard and you do it anyway. You have resistance. You don't feel like it. You're in a bad mood. There's a great phrase. You always act better than you feel. It's a great phrase. Yeah? It's not easy. Yeah? I feel grumpy. Just because you're having a bad day, I should suffer? Why should I suffer? You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of reasons. You know, today, Baruch Hashem, we named our daughter, in shul, we named our daughter Shana Rivka. Baruch Hashem, we named her Shana Rivka.
How many days is she?
She's 4 days old. We named her today in shul, right? So the Gabbai, wonderful man, he was kidding around with me and he told me, yeah, I'm good friends, it's funny. He says to me, he says, how could it be that, you know, she's a little red-haired girl, yeah, she's 4 days old, you know? How could it be that the father has white hairs, you know, but that the daughter has red hair? He's kidding around with me, yeah? I said, look, there's a phrase in Yiddish, let it be white and let it be there. You know what I'm saying?
You have a blonde mustache.
Yeah, right? It used to be a little bit red. Anyway, the point is the following, Rabbi Yisai, yeah? The kinyan in a mitzvah is when it's hard and you do it anyway. Now, we've spoken many times here about the following idea, which is amazing. There's an Avos to Rabbi Nosson. Avos to Rabbi Nosson is Rabbi Nosson the Tana. Rabbi Nosson wrote a parish on Pirkei Avos called Avos to Rabbi Nosson. And Rabbi Nosson says the following. He says one mitzvah done with difficulty is equal to 100 mitzvahs done without difficulty.
It's pretty intense.
It's intense. That means if it's hard for you one day to put on tefillin, and you put on tefillin anyway, it's like putting on tefillin 100 times when it's not hard. Now, what's called hard? We spoke about this before. We had a whole class about this. Says Rav Dessler, he quotes another Gemara. Hard is when you see a poor guy someplace, and you want to pull out a coin from your pocket. You have a 2 shekel coin and a 1 shekel coin, and you decide you want to give this guy 2 shekels. So you reach into your pocket to pull out the 2 shekels coins, you pull it out, and as you're about to hand it to me, I pulled out by mistake the 1 shekel coin. I made a mistake. And now I got to reach my hand all the way into my pocket, which is about this long anyway. Yeah? And it's not difficult at all. And I have to get the other coin. Oh, it's sorrows in life, yeah? Pain, yeah? So that's called difficulty. Says Rav Dessler, if that's the difficulty you have in the second mitzvah, the reward that you get for the second mitzvah is 100 times greater. 100 times greater. What if it's 2 times the difficulty? You had 3 coins in there. You had a quarter, you had a dime, and you had a nickel. You want to pull out the quarter, you pull out the dime. Then you pull out the nickel. Oh, third time, you got to pull out the quarter. So now twice, it's 3 coins. So twice, I had to put my hand back in my pocket. What happens? It's not 100 plus 100. It's 100 times 100. 100 times 100. What's 100 times 100?
It's 1,000, but there's no...
No. 100 times 100 is not 1,000. What's 100 times 100? It's 10,000!
I got that on video now.
It's 10,000!
For real.
Wait, is what you're saying is like you're being for real?
I'm
you're
100%
saying-
for real.
So you're saying like for every time I keep Shabbos is very hard for me at the moment. So for every week I keep Shabbos, that like.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's over the top. If a guy has a hard time because whatever reason he grew up in a place where everyone speaks in a nasty way, and it's very hard for him to not speak in a nasty way. It's very hard for him. Another guy grows up eating Gemara Rashi Toisos and eats Rambam for breakfast. You know what I'm saying? He breathes in Mishnayos. That's his whole life. And this guy speaks like he's a tatala. He's a tzaddik. Baruch Hashem. For him, it's no big deal. If this guy grows up a tzaddik his whole life and he doesn't speak lashon hara, it's nowhere near as the same reward as a guy grows up with lashon hara is flying in his house all the time. If he grows up with all kinds of other issues, and this guy, it's a very big deal. Now, Rabbi Isai, we're talking about a difficulty of reaching into your pocket twice, which is a joke. It's a joke. That's why the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, Lefum Tzara Agra, according to the difficulty is the reward. The most important factor in reward, in growth, is not how many times you did it, and how lishma it was how difficult it was. So Moshe Rabbeinu was a yikach mitzvahs. He went for the more difficult one. He acquired it. I could get money. So I could get money. I could do that. It's the hard one. Now, listen what's the practical idea about this? Okay? If you have a choice to do two different mitzvahs and there's no other factor involved, one is easy and one is hard, of course you want the hard one. Because that's where all the growth comes. That's where the growth comes. That's where the benefit comes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pays us based on the growth, and the growth is based on the difficulty. So if it's really hard because now I'll tell you something interesting. Yeah, I was once in yeshiva, my first year in yeshiva, it was very interesting. We had a couple of guys it was hard for them to not make certain comments. They made all kinds of comments, right? And a bunch of other guys would respond to them, and be not so nice to them. So a bunch of these guys said, look, just because these guys make these not nice comments doesn't mean we should be mean to them. We shouldn't let ourselves fall to a lower level. So they tried very hard to not respond. It was hard. So one guy, his way of making it easier to not respond, which is not exactly not a response, but something, is every time someone would do something wrong, he would go and say something nasty and horrible to him, he'd be like, be quiet, and then he'd go, ching. Ching was like the sound of the cash register going back and forth, like the old cash register. It's like every time you open the cash register, put money in, it would go ching, ching,
That sound?
He just say the word ching, that's all he would do. Say the word, that sound, ching, like he's making money. Like, okay, I didn't really answer ching, I just kept my mouth shut. Now, it wasn't really keeping his mouth shut because he said something, but at least he's saying I'm gaining from this, yeah, I'm steiging from this. Yeah, everyone knows it's not the easy weights that make you big, it's the hard ones, the heavy ones. It's the heavy ones. Yeah. And everyone knows, if you do 10 push-ups, which push-up gives you the most out of your push-ups? The 11th. It's what you can't do when you do it anyway.
That's what I tell people, don't count your reps.
That's right.
It stops you from your limit.
Exactly right. How many people, they asked, I think his name was Bruce Lee. Muhammad Ali, that's Muhammad Ali. How many sit-ups do you do?
I only count when it hurts.
I count when it hurts, that's all he said. I start counting when it hurts, that's all. Doesn't matter the other ones. Now, it doesn't matter, but this is a different planet. Now, Rabbi Isai, there are going to be moments in your life, you're like, wow, I really can't do this. You're going to say, I can't do this. I can't handle this. Yeah? I can't handle this. I can't do this. I can't do this, right? If Hashem is putting you in that situation, He's telling you can definitely do it.
I have a question.
Now, one second. It may be very hard to do this. You may have to push yourself in a way you never did before. But it's possible to do it because Hashem is putting you. Now, if you put yourself in the situation, then you can't blame Hashem. That's your problem. If I stayed up 6 nights in a row, not getting on sleep, and I had 7 cups of coffee a day, you can't blame Hashem. You can't blame it. That's your fault. Yeah.
Yeah, you're making it happen.
Yeah, but if it's a situation where I was being a basically responsible person, or I didn't cause my own upbringing. I didn't cause myself to be raised this way. I didn't cause myself with these emotions or these natural character traits. I didn't cause it. This is what I got now. So Hashem says that means you can handle it. Question. What if you have a situation where a mitzvah is very hard for you to do? You get up every single day at 12 o'clock. And now you say, what should you do? Should you try to get up every day at 7? Get up at 7 o'clock because 7 o'clock is crazy hard for you. It's 5 hours earlier. And you get who knows what kind of reward, or should you get up a half hour earlier every day? So there's no question about it that you're going to have much more success if you get up even 15 minutes earlier every day. You should definitely do that. But where all else is equal, and there's an easy one and there's a hard one, definitely do the hard one. But don't do it in a way that's too hard for you. If it's very hard for you to do it and you want to get started, then do it in the easiest possible way to build momentum. This is very important. Build momentum. Momentum is I get some energy going behind me. I'm going making it into a habit. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. What that means is, I can't do it, I want to do it in a good way. Do it in a lousy way, in a totally junky, poor, low-quality way, but just do it, get started, and then eventually do it a little better, and a little better, a little better, and eventually you can back it down. Okay? I definitely had a period of time in my life when I was about 18 years old where I was getting up every day at 12 o'clock, just like you said. Yeah? And I slowly backed it down, and eventually backed it down. Eventually, now I get up very early, but when you get older, you get up much early. Slowly, every day, a little more, a half hour, another half hour, That's exactly what I did.
Did you go to sleep earlier too?
I started going, of course, when you start, the day begins the night before. Okay, but that's another topic. Now, the next idea, which is awesome, listen to this. Okay? It's a beautiful idea. Moshe Rabbeinu took the bones of Yosef to bury. This is a very beautiful idea. It's a super important idea. Klal Yisrael has a lot of mitzvahs to do. Sometimes you're living your life in a way that you're doing a certain mitzvah and it seems like no big deal to you. And Hashem says, ho! Not only is that not a small thing, it's a very big thing. I'm going to help you or your child or your children in the future in a way that's really big because of that small thing that you did right now. Okay? Let me just give you a quick example. Quick example is the following, right? Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Yosef HaTzadik buried his father in Eretz Yisrael because Yaakov was his father. And Yosef had a mitzvah to mechabit, to honor his father. So Yosef had a mitzvah to follow what his father said. His father said, please bury me in Israel. And that's what he did. But Yosef's not your father. You're not obligated to bury Yosef's bones, but you did it anyway. You did it anyway. So I'm going to bury you. When time comes, who buried Moshe Rabbeinu? Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. Now, I am sure that Moshe Rabbeinu did not get the bones of Yosef with the intention of that Hashem is going to reward him and bury himself. But because he did it, Hashem is paying attention and Hashem gave it to him. There are many times in your life you go through, do something very small, you think it's no big deal, Hashem's like, I'm paying attention to what you're doing, yeah? And you're going to benefit even in Olam Hazeh, even in the physical world from this idea. Someone had a question, yeah? Question? Yeah.
Yes, when you're saying that when you do something, for, like, let's say keeping Shabbos or something that's hard for you, you said that Hashem, like, it's a skula for your children or something like that, right? But let's say I don't want my children to be getting skula off me. I want them to earn their own zuchusim. I don't want them to be latching off me.
Great question.
And I want to reap the benefits of my own work.
Excellent. Question is, I'm just going to rephrase the question. The question is, something was very difficult for me. I used to steal when I was younger. I used to speak Lashon Hara. I used to do this, whatever I used to do. And I worked really hard for it. And now, my kids don't have that because they're growing up in a house where they already have this starting at the higher level. But I want them to work for it also. So listen to this beautiful idea. It's a great question, okay? Hear the question? If I raise my kids naturally not stealing or speaking in a nice way, then they don't get the benefit from that, yeah? There are endless levels to grab onto. If you're given a choice between starting low and moving up slowly, or starting higher and moving up slowly, you're better off starting up higher and moving up slowly. Why? Because there's two types of reward that you get. You get reward lefum tzara agra, which is difficulty. That's growth. And you also get reward for absolute level that you're on. If you are on, for whatever reason, a very low level, and you grew tremendously, you're still on a relatively low level, but you grew tremendously, you get a tremendous reward for that, and you do not lose out. You don't lose out by having been started on a very low level. The guy started at minus 20 below the low ground level. And now he's up to like the third story above ground level. He grew 23 stories. This other guy started at the 150th floor, and he got to the 180th floor. He grew 30 stories, yeah? Oh, maybe he grew 170 to 20 stories. But he started higher, he ended higher, right? What's the difference? What's the difference? One is the lefum tzara agra, difficulty. The difficulty gives you the reward. But there's another thing, just for the fact you have shleimus, you have completion in your neshama. If you can have both, you're better off. If you can have both, you're better off. So if you can give your kid the chance to start where you left off, that's great, because now he's going to be able to get the levels you couldn't get to before. And by the way, it's going to be in your schus too. It's going to be in your schus too. By the way, you know who did this? Avram did this. Yeah. Avram's father was horrible, Terach, relatively speaking, and Avraham Avinu went to incredible levels, but he didn't reach the level Yitzchak reached. But Yitzchak only reached those levels because Yitzchak was standing on his shoulders spiritually. Right. So in the spirit, the question is, what good is it to promise Avraham Avinu all kinds of great kids and all kinds of other things in life if he's not the one that's actually getting the benefit? The answer is it's in his merit, and therefore Hashem benefits him in the world to come. If a person has 2 kids that are really good and do great things, then that person gets benefit for what the kids do. If he has 3 kids, or the kids do even better things, he gets even more benefit. It's a merit of the father or the mother or the grandmother, grandfather, great grandmother, that you have an ancestor, you have a descendant like that. It's awesome.